Hello, everyone. Welcome to Let's Go Up.
Where we explore the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven.
I'm definitely Dean.
And I'm for sure Karitas.
Karitas, today we're going to talk about a subject that's been on my heart for a couple of days. We're going to talk about purpose versus significance. You look super excited about it. Karitas, we're back.
Yes.
Every day is a good day with the right perspective.
Always and forever, amen. Okay, before we get started, our website.
Letsgoup.us.
Because we're in this together.
And also, if you are encouraged by today's episode, consider hitting like, share, subscribe. And if you want to be notified when we put out a new episode, there's always the notification bell. We need to welcome our listening and watching guests today.
We need to. So welcome everyone at Grace Awakening Network.
Yay.
All the podcast viewing platforms and the YubTub and the YouTube and all the things. They're all there and they can all be accessed
via our website, one click away.
Yeah, very fancy term there, Dean. Like a viaduct.
That's right.
Right to the website. Okay, what are we talking about today? What's going on?
Karitas, I was out for a walk yesterday with my lovely wife, and we were talking about a conversation she had with someone who was a retiree. And they were mentioning how they had no purpose now that they were retired. And so for the rest of the walk, we talked about purpose, and we decided it wasn't so much about purpose as it was about significance. So what a wonderful subject to try to explore. Because that's what we do here. We explore stuff.
Yeah. So my darling wife, I'm going to take our conversation and we're going to take it up.
A notch.
On Let's Go Up. That reminds me of a lot of conversations I've had with people actually who have retired and have gone back to work, not because they love their job, but because they felt purposeless. Who am I? My meaning was in work. And then I had seen this interview one time with a guy, I don't know if you've heard of him, not a lot of people have, but his name is Elon Musk.
Yeah, I heard of him somewhere.
Some guy.
Rings a bell.
Yeah, I think maybe he invented something.
Yeah.
I think he was smart. Anyways, he was talking about how the technology is there for humans to not have to ever work again. They have the ability to create enough robotics and AI and things like that to take over a lot of the jobs people have to do to make a living. So he says we could have a world where people could just live and enjoy their life. They could do their hobbies, things that you try to squeeze in on a weekend. You know, I've got half an hour in the evenings during the weekday to do this, and I could play with my kids a little bit here, and then maybe I'll try gardening. But you could actually do all these things
full time.
You could do whatever pleases you and live a full, enjoyable life, exploring the arts, exploring nature, getting close to your family, all these things we are so used to squeezing into our spare time. And he said it wouldn't be super complicated. We would have to change the whole economy of the globe, which we could do if we got along, have a base pay kind of thing. And he said the issue, though, was the mental aspect of it. Could people handle it? We don't think people could because people's whole purpose in life and identity comes from work a lot of the time. So would we end up with a planet full of
purposeless people?
Purposeless, depressed, stressed out people.
Right.
Who don't know who they are or what to do.
I feel like we certainly would end up with a planet full of purposeless people.
Yeah.
Because the first question you're asked when you meet someone is, "Hi, my name is," and so what do you do?
Yeah.
So immediately it's like, what is your thing?
Yeah.
What is your purpose? What are you doing? What is it that you do that makes you important?
Yeah. Who are you?
Who are you?
Explain it to me through what you do for a living. And that gets ingrained into you from a young age, right? You're going to school and the whole purpose is to train you and your mind into this purpose of who you are. What are you good at? What are your skills? What job can we plug you into, right? And then the mind of the child starts getting shaped into their adult identity is tied to the job they pick.
Right. I am a mechanic.
Yeah, exactly.
I am a doctor.
Yeah.
We as humans are not smart enough to separate what we do from who we are.
Yeah. So his direct quote, as far as the internet goes, which doesn't lie,
No, never.
is the harder challenge is how do people then have meaning? If there's not a need for your labor, how do you find meaning? Do you feel useless? Yeah. All right. So if we think this way as far as work goes, are we also thinking this way as far as our relationship with the Lord goes, who we really are as children of God? Like, are we coming from a purpose-driven, works-driven, earning-driven mindset or a identity, rest, abiding place?
It seems to me that purpose is very future-oriented and future-driven. Significance, I feel like it's in the now. We're significant because we are, because we exist, and that's in the now, that's in the moment. When we attach our identity to purpose, we are catapulting it into the future, and we're saying, if we accomplish this, that, or the other thing, then we will have worth.
And then we'll be significant.
That's right. So there's this caveat to significance, and it sets in between us and the significance something called purpose. And we have to have that, and we have to be successful at that before we gain significance. So it's a driving force to get us to the same place. But in the end, the significance is still in the moment, and the purpose or the works is still the momentum to get us there, and it's a future-driven thing. So could we conceivably go straight to significance without going through this rite of passage where we have to do works or be purpose-driven?
I believe we can, but I think it would take a refreshing mindset to think that way and live that way because we're so conditioned to think the purpose-driven route leads to your meaning and your identity. Take note of what you're believing and why. Am I believing this because this is what the Father has laid out for our life? Or is it because we've been told, do this, this, and this, and this, and then your meaning and your identity comes from those things?
Right. There is a need in all of us for something. Some people would say we all have a basic human need to have a purpose. So if we go with that, then what we're saying is we all have a basic need to have something to work towards. But I've also heard people say that we have a basic human need for significance. It's possible that we need both of those things, but I wonder in what context, and I wonder what drives what. Who's got the wheel here?
Yeah.
So if we say that we have a basic human need for purpose, and if we let that take the center focus of our life, and if we let it be the driving force, then it leads us down roads where if we don't have anything to accomplish, we have no purpose. And so that kind of thinking takes us to places where we attach our identity to the purpose. If we don't have that, then we have nothing. And that's where a lot of people end up. In this place of life that I'm at, where my wife is at, this person that we were talking to who said, now that I'm retired, I have no purpose. That's just language that this person is using to express the sentiment that all of their life, they have held on to purpose as their identity. And when that's not there anymore, then their identity is missing. And they're completely lost. They don't know where to find it. They don't know where to go. They don't know where to turn. They don't know what to do. And they're bored, and they haven't found the secret place. They haven't found the place of significance. They've just hung everything on the purpose hanger. And I think it ends up being a lifetime long thing with many of us.
Yeah.
We're taught that from a very young age. Destiny, purpose. What are you going to be? Be, do, work hard. Try to prove something. Try to do something with yourself. Strive for your future. Try to fulfill your purpose,
Yeah.
And in the end, it can be a subconscious way of trying to be noticed even. If the purpose isn't there, then nobody's going to notice us anymore, right?
Right. Yeah. It's a very low frequency mindset that has been normalized.
Right.
And sometimes we just need a fresh perspective to even realize that there is a better, higher way of seeing things. And sometimes that means having these conversations like you and your wife on your walk, kind of realizing that isn't how we have to be living. There's a better way. Even if your purpose in life is to serve the Lord, if it's from a place of working to gain his approval or earn something or have a place, find your significance and reach this level of acceptance, it could so easily lead to burnout or exhaustion or pain if you're not seen or if circumstances go a different way than you're expecting. But when you start doing these things from significance, I am a child of God and my motive is love and I just love him and I want to know him. You're just living from who you are and you won't be burnt out. You won't feel frustrated. You won't feel like a failure because your identity is not coming from reaching a certain point. You started there.
There is something somewhat deceptive about reaching for a certain point, because living only for a few years, you will realize that once you've reached the point, there's a certain emptiness in it if you've done it on your own strength, first of all. And second of all, there's always another point to be reached. And so we live our lives going from point to point, from purpose to purpose. And oftentimes, we think, okay, if I could ever get to there, I would be happy. That would be the place that would light my lamp. Okay, so then we get there, or we maybe don't quite get there. But let me tell you what, get there and you tell me if you're happy or not. Happiness is not defined by a point in destiny or in purpose that you reach. Because I tell you what, you reach that point and the happiness that you were hoping for, you will not find there. It doesn't exist. It's a wisp, it's a vapor, it's something that we make up to drive ourselves from point to point with this future happiness carrot that constantly dangles in front of us that we can never catch.
Right.
So, we land at a certain point and the happiness doesn't exist there. And then there's always got to be another point and another point and another point. And then when we reach a place in our lives where there are no more points to reach, then there's no more purpose, and then there's no more reason for existing.
Say, for example, your drive is something athletic, but then you have a catastrophic injury, and now you can't physically do that. You see how people fall into identity crisis and dark places when all of that is stopped suddenly because their whole identity was in that, right? It's still a tragedy when it happens, but it can be in a place where you're still just as secure in your significance and your purpose in life, with or without that. And you see it in people. So you have someone who requires total care from someone their whole life, or someone who can live and be independent and invent things like Elon Musk, for example, who we started talking about. Do either of them have more significance than the other? Does the Father see either of them as lesser because one can't do anything without support and the other one can invent miraculous things that change lives?
Well, the Father sees us all the same, but we as humans have built this system of hierarchy where we attach a higher value to the one than we do to the other, for whatever reason. We're impressed with certain things that the Father is not impressed with. The Father looks on the heart. Of course, we look on the exterior and we look at the accomplishments. So we are catapulting our sense of value and our sense of worth onto those kind of individuals, saying in our mind that they have a higher value than the person who is on the street in Africa who has nothing of the same kind of opportunity. Although that person might have the same seeds of greatness in their heart, they might never have had the opportunity to pursue them. But in God's eyes, He sees those seeds of greatness. But the thing is, if we end up in a place where we didn't fulfill destiny or purpose, then we end up in a place where we feel worthless. We're attaching a value or a worth to something that was never meant to be there. We're attaching it to the wrong thing. Significance is very different than this purpose-driven thing that we're attaching this worth to. Now, I think we need to be careful in saying that there is value in purpose. There are verses that I can think of right now where it says, God purposed in his heart to do this or that or the other thing. There are other verses that talks about the purpose and the counsels of God. So we're not saying purpose is something to absolutely avoid, but I think what we are saying is placing purpose as a prerequisite to significance is a harmful thing. When we're talking about significance, it rests on a completely different platform, a completely different foundation.
This is where we get into the easy rest.
Yeah. Significance puts us in a place where no purpose is needed in order to be loved. Nothing else is needed except that we exist.
Wow. Yeah.
That's significance enough.
You're significant simply because the Father created you. That's it.
That is all that you need for significance.
He saw that you were significant enough to be created, and you were created.
In fact, he foreknew us, and then he chose us and he adopted us and he created us to bear the image of his son. And in the end, he's glorified us. And when he knew us way back when we were just a little bopper in the sea of souls,
Yeah.
bopping around,
Yeah.
being happy.
Chilling out.
That's right. Enjoying the glory. He saw something in us way back then, and that is all that we need for significance, just that glance from him. The fact that we are the object of the Father's affection is just the amazing catalyst for the significance of our soul.
When we realize this starting place, everything else can be done from that place, and it's through rest. It's not through performance. It's not through earning. It's from simply being accepted, being significant. And then through that, all of the other things can happen or not happen, and you're still just as content. You can be content in any situation or circumstance that might possibly come. It removes that root of fear that you can have. What if this is taken away? Or what if I can't do that anymore? What am I going to do when I retire? It takes that away because your significance and your contentment doesn't change. You can live to glorify God, whether you're at work or whether you're gardening. You don't need any situation. It comes from the other end. You start with significance. You don't start trying to get to purpose.
Right. So if we take purpose and we place it in front of significance as a prerequisite for significance, then that's the first scenario we were talking about. But if we receive our significance first and then let purpose flow out of the significance, then we're talking about a completely different kind of lifestyle, right? Because significance is based on his love over us. It's based on those thoughts that are greater than all of the grains of sand and his song over us.
Yeah.
That's where our significance comes from. That's the only place it can come from. And in those things, there's no agenda.
Oh, so good.
Right?
Yeah. And I think if you've been living your life driven by purpose and then suddenly that situation is removed from you and you're in this place of discomfort and you just want to go back to the way things were, where you had this purpose-driven life and this is who I am and this is what I do and now I have meaning and acceptance and I can contribute.
Right, because it actually is an adrenaline rush.
I think
right?
an important thing when that adrenaline is there, but the action isn't, to just sit in it and sit in the discomfort, sit in the space, because we went through the Nag Hammadi scriptures the past few weeks.
Yeah.
And there are a few points in there that I'd noticed where Jesus is telling his listeners, be in that space of silence, be in that space of just nothing and just being. Turn off all the noise and the chaos. And I think it's important when we're feeling that stress, when we recognize we're uncomfortable outside of that, to just sit in that discomfort and call upon the Lord and wait, because it's in that waiting, it's in the silence, it's in that place of nothing where there isn't anyone else around you, there isn't distraction or work or effort, it's just you and him, is where your peace will be found. He will start revealing things to you if you sit in that space long enough with him and you let him, because he wants to talk to us and he wants to show us how significant we've always been and who we really are. But sometimes you just need all that turned down, and that silence can be uncomfortable for a little while for people.
I feel like the uncomfortableness of it is a sign that we were on the other path. And I feel like it should be a place where we deliberately step off that treadmill and move over to a parallel pathway that looks nothing like it. And the first thing that we're going to have to do in that situation is we're going to have to find our sense of, like you said, silence. We're going to have to find our sense of significance. It's very possible that through all of the busyness of the seasons that we've been through, we might have never discovered it, or we might have pushed it down so far that it's almost indistinguishable. It's so quiet that we can't even hear it. The only way to hear it loud and clear is to turn the volume down on everything else, like you said, and sit with it in a place of contemplation and quiet, and let the love of the Father pour over you for months if you need to, until you build up such a solid identity in the fact that he loves you and he's thinking about you all the time. And there's nothing that you could have ever done to improve that love or to make it any greater. It was always 1,000% right from the start. And it's not
higher.
999% because you now have the perception that you have no purpose.
Right.
Like he hasn't dialed down his love because you're not working for his kingdom.
Yeah. And our contribution to this planet, it's not what we think it is. We think it's a job, what we do, how are we contributing? That's just, do it, sure. Jesus says you're the light of the world. You're one with me. I'm in you. You're a child of God. You're a spirit being here on earth having a temporary earthly experience. Don't make the temporary earthly experience your purpose, your identity.
Yeah.
There's far more here when you're walking in the awareness of the Father and the union and being that light, that bringer of light. It changes. It doesn't matter if you're at work or retired or if you're stay-at-home mom or you're a neurosurgeon. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. The significance and the purpose is found in the things that we deem as insignificant.
Mm-hmm.
They're in those little momentary decisions that we make wherever we are when we choose to love our world well.
Yeah. You give a little piece of bread to someone from your poverty.
Yeah.
And God sees that as the most grand gesture of generosity. But you might see someone giving millions to an orphanage in Indonesia or something, and you're like, oh, I could never. But that's from someone's wealth, and the motive is maybe skewed, or who knows what's going on there. Your little piece of bread from your poverty that you gave what you could give was the big gift.
Well, Jesus even says that in the book of Matthew, I believe it is, when you give a drink of cold water to somebody, or when you entertained people, you didn't understand that you were entertaining angels. So when you're hospitable, when you love, when you are light, those small things, in the end, that's all that's going to be remembered.
Yeah.
The big career that we had, it doesn't matter who you are or what you've done. It doesn't matter if you were a pastor and you preached to millions. It doesn't matter if you were a person cleaning floors or bathrooms. Those things are just the means to be able to love well. They don't actually mean anything in the end. In the end, the little momentary decisions, those are the things that will last and that will be remembered in the kingdom.
Yeah, it reminds me of that line, as you go. As you go, heal the sick. As you go, cast out demons. As you go to work, love those around you well. Be the light. Be the spark that they're drawn to. Love those around you well. Don't walk in pride or arrogance. Don't let that become your identity. Honor me with it, but don't become it. When you do that deed, your right hand, your left hand don't know what the other's doing. You're not doing it being motivated by an award or attention or a promotion. You're just doing it to love. That's what he sees.
I think you mentioned a few weeks ago something that I've been thinking about, actually. Did you know that?
I don't know. There's many things I could have mentioned that you're still thinking.
What you said is that little children really don't have any purpose to their parents. You even said that in some ways they are an inconvenience. They're just there, you can hold them, but yet a parent would fight and die for that little child.
Yeah. Like if you were from some planet, some alien planet, you'd look at babies and be like, I don't get it. All they do is eat, poop, and sleep, and then they cry, and then they need, and they adore them. What is going on? The kids are doing nothing for them.
Those like little children are the ones who enter the kingdom of heaven. And children carry significance based on the love of a parent. And it really has no earthly rationale because that child can't do anything for the parent.
Yeah, they're just loved and adored and treasured.
So a child is treasured just because it exists. It's the creation of that union. And we are the same when it comes to the Father. We are a creation of the Father. We're refathered by Him. Our soul, our spirit is fathered by the Heavenly Father, and He loves us just for that. The same sentiment that we feel over a child is how He feels, except on steroids.
Yeah.
Evidently, He thinks about us all the time. Billions and trillions of thoughts of goodness and kindness over us through our entire lives. And here we are thinking that He's looking at us with displeasure and that we have to fulfill some divine purpose in order to please Him or do His will. Simply not true. We have an enormous amount of significance to the Father just because we exist beyond anything that we could ever imagine. So now when we bring that into human relationships, do we treasure the people around us for who they are rather than what they can do for us? Are we placing some kind of expectation of performance on them in order for our love to be complete or for us to show our love to them? When we talk about a significant other, what does that even mean? And are we really taking that with the language of heaven
Wow. Yeah.
when it talks about how significant people are and how they're significant just because they exist and just because God has chosen to put them in our lives? And so we have the privilege of loving them with the same love that He loves. And in that union of that kind of love, we love like the Father does, right?
Yeah. You're not needing, for example, in a marriage, your spouse to fill something for you. You see them how the Father sees them, and you're filled already from Him. And then we can be free to be in a relationship with a person and not have these expectations on them that the Father doesn't have on us.
I think that's a near mic drop where you just said, let's not project expectations on other people that the Father would never project.
Yeah.
That's a good place to step back and think just a second here. What am I doing? I'm stepping into a place where I'm putting purpose as a prerequisite to somebody having significance in my life. Let's do unto others as we would have them do unto us. And let's see others as the Father sees us. So some key words when it comes to significance, I think, are abiding, resting, learning to be the object of our Father's affection and not needing anything else to inspire a sense of significance in us. Just to wrap up today, Karitas, I know that there's a lot of people who are very intensely tied to their purpose in life. We're not knocking purpose. What we're trying to do is we're trying to put it in the right context. If we use purpose as a stepping stone to significance, that's the wrong way around. You've got the cart before the horse. What we want to do is we want to get our significance from the fact that we are and we've been created by and we are loved by the Father. And then out of that, everything flows. Purpose flows, destiny flows, all of the beautiful things that come in our life. But those things are not the main attraction. The main thing is the fact that we are loved.
Yeah.
Live there, and we will live as a person who is abiding in the bridal chamber.
Oh, yes. In the fullness.
Yeah. All right. So that's where we're going to leave it for today.
Yeah.
So have an awesome week, everyone. Rest in the significance and the love of the Father over you. And we'll see you next time.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.